Hello ladies and gentlemen, Dave Dobbs here. It's the 7th of December 2024 and we are right in the middle of a very big flyby, and that is a flyby of literally Jupiter. That is what is flying by us at the moment, even though it's utterly beyond belief, and so much of what's going on in the world right now is utterly beyond belief. I've been charting this flyby for a long time, and I wanted to take you through what's happening at the moment, because we had the earthquake that's just happened in California on the 5th of December, just gone. And do you remember we had an earthquake before? When did we have it? We had it on if I just go back to one of my previous videos, this one here, back from Mr. MBB 333 made a video about it, the earthquake that came in around Oregon, off the coast of Oregon, around Oregon there, which was around about the 30th of I think around about the 30th of October. And I don't know if you remember, but just to give you kind of like some kind of bearing on why they occur, why these earthquakes occur, why they do where they do. That was where the moon was on the round about the 30th of October, just gone. So it was, if you can imagine, the Earth is there, the Sun's there. So when this object comes right between the Earth and the Sun, that's obviously the black moon, the dark moon, or the black moon. And this earthquake just occurred. The Oregon earthquake occurred when the moon was there. So I was saying that means that the object is in that the moon is basically magnifying it. And I don't know if you remember in the shots I brought up in this video, we explored where were they? What shots were they? That shot there that had come in round about the same time from Turkey UFO report, and I was saying look out for it, and there is the object in question that's orbiting this big dwarf planet. And this is exactly where I'm expecting it to be. This is where we were, we've been watching this for year on and year off, but since kind of like, since I can show you the interesting thing right now is that when we consider the current earthquake, the black moon, the last dark moon was on around about the 1st of December. And so if we go back to this shot here, so we've come, obviously the moon since this time has come right round, one full cycle, has come back to here, come back to the in between Earth and the Sun. So that was around about the 1st of December, and the moon's carried on to about here, to the 5th of December, which means that the object in question has come round, and basically it began its exit trajectory out here, rather than keep coming round. So this is its exit trajectory. Our Earth has gone past it. And so we're I'm not saying we're out the woods yet, because we're still seeing the Icelandic volcano going off. So but just to explore that in terms of using this model here, where if we come to 2024 and we've got Jupiter coming right round here, which in this model I was assuming that the object that all of these exoplanets are orbiting, I call them orbiting this object I'm calling in this model Herculobus. It's a bit tricky to explain really, because this model now needs adjustment, because this is actually much further back here, and and like I say, this model here, or certainly this model here, is much more akin to really, if I just remembering where we were in, say, 262, as in 262 years after the death of Christ. This was the time of our last big kind of like when the planets were kind of like where they're lining up like they are now, and it's taken 1800 years to resync to this same place. So we're coming forward up to the 1600s there, the time of Galileo, time of kind of like Kepler, and then we're going to come around to Isaac Newton's time, and then William Herschel's time, and then kind of Neptune time, and then kind of Pluto time, and now we're coming into the biggest syncing up as they synced up back in 262, just to kind of like, and this is much more akin to what really is going on. This original model, even though this new model, has it gone? Even though this new model that I built, if I just come out of that a little bit, is a very similar thing. You'll see that really what's actually happening is I've got Herculobus on the outside, or whether you want to call it Pluto, whether you want to call it Neptune, whether you want to call it kind of Uranus, or whatever you want to call this system, that we reinvent every 84 years to keep us in the heliocentric static sun model. And here I've got the sun on the inside and Herculobus on the outside. Well, that's not really working. I think the original model is much more, basically they're both, I've been experimenting with both, and I'm much more of a mind that actually the other model is actually a better model to express all these big primaries that things orbit. It's difficult. Anyway, just coming back there to 2024 on this model. You remember we've been watching it. It moves one calendar month further forward every year, and has done since we've observed it. But you see how I've got Jupiter coming right round this object, and then coming back and then looping around our sun, because this and our sun have become so close. So what's actually happening is that this object is much further back here, as I just showed you in the other model. So what's actually happened is Jupiter is, instead of coming all the way back, crossing in where I was thinking in July, August, September, somewhere over here, and then looping all the way around, it's actually stayed very much closer to our sun. So it's crossed in this position as I've got it, and it's actually come round and it's crossing over here, and it's coming out this way to orbit this thing, which is much more over here, if you like, and then it's gonna loop around again. And when we're gonna keep coming to and fro and fro these to try and make some sense of this. But what I wanted to show you is that if I go back to 2013, October 2013, to this shot here that I've got listed as the 14th of October 2013, but I actually think I put the date down wrong there. I've got a funny feeling it was on the 23rd or the 24th. I think the 23rd of October 2013, and it was, when we see that, I'm of a mind that we're seeing that there. And remember, that's 2013, and this has got the very similar, Jupiter-esque orbital mechanics. So we're seeing that coming in. That's the same as this shot here. We're seeing the same thing, except that previous shot in 2013 was seen from Australia, seen from the southern hemisphere, because this, as it's been coming round, all of these objects orbiting this object have been passing through our ecliptic. And so where we saw them in 2013 in the southern aspect of the globe, now we're seeing them coming in from the northern aspect. So that is the same, except it's bigger there. I'm of a mind it's bigger there. It's closer to us now. So you think 2013, October 2013, October 2023. We go forward 10 years, October 2024, which was this shot here. And then if we go to October 2025, we come to our full 12-year kind of point, which means that though we're seeing a very close flyby now, we're still not seeing the closest of all flybys. And this shot now and this shot there now kind of makes so much more sense of what we're seeing. And if we come forward to 2016, ironically October the 14th, which is the correct date, October the 14th, 2016, this shot here, that is that same object, but now we're seeing it here, and imagining that this object is actually over here, and so Jupiter, instead of, see how much further it's further forward here. So what's actually happened? It's come round. It's come round. It's come round our sun, and oh, there's so many things, so many corrections I've got to make to this. But basically, it's come round our sun. It's come past. It's come round our sun, and it's come out, and it's gone way past. You know, we're in that same October position, but except at here, you know, when we were in the October position, Mars was just. See how I've got the whole thing slightly out of, well, I've got it considerably out of sync, really, from its exit point, and so that would have been, that's October, and so we were viewing it there, but we were seeing it in the northeast. This shot was in the northeast, taken from the northern hemisphere, North America, and at 10 o'clock at night, and that's where, ironically, that's where Mars was. And so this thing has carried on out, and by 2016 it's affecting Mars. It's gone way past Earth by that stage. It's going out beyond Earth. It's being seen in the night sky. It's gone way beyond. So we know that by the time we get to 2016, 2 plus 12 is 2028. By the time we get to 2028, this is going to be way past us. This is going to be affecting the kind of the orbital perimeter of Mars. It's going to be way beyond Earth. It's going to be way out of this kind of close range that we're experiencing now. We're in the closest kind of hub this year, and next year, and possibly 2026. But I'm of a mind that next year is going to be even bigger than this year. And you know, I said all the big storms were moving into the northern, could be moving into the northern hemisphere, and they've really been doing that. Mega storms, we've broken all the records, incredible flooding. We'd see the Icelandic volcanoes going off, and we're seeing that, and that's still going on. We're on something like day 18 of the current eruption that started on round about the 20th of November, maybe the 18th of November, 20th of November. But we're on about 18 days now, 18, 20 days. So we're coming up to our kind of 3-week period. And if this object is flying by us now, it's not going to be that close. It is pretty close. You know, you're seeing pretty sizable earthquakes in the northern hemisphere. You're seeing the volcanoes. You're seeing crazy storms. We've got Dara, the storm Dara. You know, it's a few weeks back we had Bert. You know, we're already flooding in certain places. You know, and we're now on D. We're, you know, with Bert, or whatever they called it, for us in England here, you know, that was our second named storm a couple of weeks back, and the water levels came really high, highest they've been in Bath for since 2013. Ironically, isn't that something? You know, when we were last seeing the kind of like the similar sort of flyby. Admittedly, it was in the southern hemisphere. but there's still storms. There's still kind of like these kind of like these effects, kind of like exciting the magma in our planet as this thing goes by. So so anyway, I thought I'd just show you that, and to show you where it is at the moment. It is flying by. It's literally and how intense it's going to be, I'm not too sure. How many more earthquakes we're going to get, I don't know. I feel that we're kind of moving away from it now, but it's been a big, scary thing. And you know, I'm of a mind that, you know, in 2008, the Sichuan earthquake that happened around about May, June 2008, it was a massive earthquake in China, and many big buildings fell down, and I believe that was the precursor for the 2008 crash, and that was the beginning point, and that's when all the bitcoins came out. And I'm of a mind that this is a much bigger indicator of what the money's doing. Because this is where, when this thing comes by, this is the fifth dimension. This is what I'm understanding to be like a heaven, our heaven, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's a sacred place that comes by, and this is where many souls go when they transcend the whole Earth astral realm story, and they're ready to transcend to a higher place. And to not just have to have their own individual kind of earth astral realms, but to become part of a consensual realm where all of their best, everyone brings all of their best into a single realm. And I know that sounds really over the top. Every part of this subject is over the top, but that's how I came into this. When I wrote my book Laughing Gas, it was going and visiting that space, and seeing that space, and that's what inspired Laughing Gas. And there was much that inspired Laughing Gas, and I'm going to talk again a little bit more about that as well, because as I've been looking more and more at this at the shot in at that shot on the, like I say, on more like on the I think on the 23rd of October 2013. Apologies about the mistake there, but like I say, this whole model needs a massive, you know, I experimented with this model because there was errors, and I was trying to incorporate a lot of other things, and I think I've taken 2 steps backward than 2 steps forward. But nonetheless, there was a lot of new information that was ascertained, like the forward motion of our sun, understanding that our sun moves forward on the 21st of June, and I'd spent a long time trying to postulate and understand which direction our sun moves. And every time I build a model, you know, the first thing you kind of try and do when you build an astronomical model is to kind of like understand where the sun's going, and that's the one bit of information that none of us really know, and it's not given. And in our current understanding, in the standard model, every planet that is added to the solar system has a different perihelion point, as in when an object's going forward. Say an object's going forward, and like our sun, that's a primary that other objects are orbiting. When something comes in to come into perihelion point of the sun, imagine the sun's travelling at 50, just as an arbitrary, you know, we're supposed to be travelling at 67,000 miles an hour, so we're obviously travelling a little bit faster than our sun to be able to overtake it and keep going round it, but we're trapped in its orbit. So we overtake it. Say we're travelling at say, just to kind of use a bit more round sort of figures, imagining we're travelling at, say, you know, arbitrary figures, but say we're travelling at 100,000, or say 100,000 kilometres an hour, which is probably quite close to something like that anyway, and the sun's travelling at 50,000 kilometres an hour. So as we go past the sun this way to overtake it and go round, you can imagine as we go past it this way, we're travelling at the same direction as we go past it. If we're travelling in the same direction, going forward, about to go do a rotation. So because we're travelling in the same direction as it, and though we're travelling at 100,000 kilometres an hour, if that's travelling at 50,000, we're only overtaking at 50,000 kilometres an hour, which means that our centrifugal force as we go around the sun is not as great as when we spin round and we come round the other side, where when we're going this way and the sun's going this way, if the sun's moving say 50,000 kilometres an hour and we're moving 100,000, then our we're passing effectively at 150,000 kilometers an hour, which means the centrifugal force would come around close to this edge, but we get thrown out this edge. So the distance massively changes. So we get much closer at this point and much further away at this point. Well, Kepler's understanding of orbital mechanics didn't include that. Kepler's understanding of orbital mechanics is if an object comes around our sun, there's the same distance between here and here. Well, now we understand that doesn't really work, and so Kepler's model falls apart because of that discrepancy, which wasn't accounted for in his model. There's kind of like the difference between these two when you're travelling at the same speed. Nonetheless, all of the planets, when we're describing that motion of an object coming around here, going at the same speed, coming around, going the opposite direction now, going much further back, looping back round, coming around the front end, looping fast around the front, and then coming long, kind of big elliptical kind of cycles, as we would expect with orbits. We just show all our planets in a perfect circle, so we don't really have any notion. And every planet that's added has got a different perihelion point, suggesting that if you're giving, say Jupiter and Saturn have got different perihelion points, if they've got different effectively there can only be one front end of the sun. The sun can be fundamentally only going in pretty much one direction. Yeah, it's going to have wobbles as a result of bigger objects orbiting around it, pulling it to and fro, and it's going to have a bit of a kind of like a, it's going to have a bit of a weave as it goes along due to the different masses that are orbiting around it. But nonetheless, it should pretty much be going on in pretty much a straight line, or in whatever big orbit is going on. And but if I then start saying another planet's got another perihelion point, then you imagine a car and a tow bar, and you put the caravan on the back of the car, and the car goes along and tows the caravan. You couldn't then try and put a caravan on the side of the car, or a caravan on the top of the car, or a caravan on the bottom of the car, or the caravan on the front of the car, and expect them. There's got to be one direction, and all of the planets come around the same front end. Well, that's not the model we're given. We're just given a static sun model, and the sun's in the middle, and all the planets are coming in from different angles, and they reach a different perihelion point depending on where they're coming from, which only works with a static sun. So it frustrates all these youngsters, or I say youngsters, all these kind of like these young adults that kind of like get involved in all these new astronomical applications. And all of them are stumped by the ridiculousness of this old-fashioned kind of like that. They can't work with it. No one can build this astronomical model. And once you actually do try and build this astronomical model, and you give our sun motion, everything falls off and falls apart. So the standard model doesn't work in any way, shape or form. It never has worked. But anyone who questioned it in our history has basically had a tough time. You've had to come round and listen to their heated debate as they've been stuck on the pyre and burnt for their heresy. And today we just get ridiculed if we question it. And so we don't know how to question it. We don't know how to move around it. And so much of what I'm showing you, and much of what I'm showing here, is just like is looking so alien. Because if you're going to try and explain all these flybys, the big predictions that I made, the one that really put me on the map, which was the big I'd right up to this flyby here, where I predicted it and made a video and said, look out for it, it's going to be amazing, blah blah blah, and then it came in on the 21st of January 2017. This was we've been every 200 days we've been seeing these twin tail objects fly by the planet, comet after comet, every 200 days apart, never missing a beat. And then leads up to this big flyby. Well, that really put me on the map. And then after this, we just became saturated with just mega shots of the most incredible flybys that were just, you know, we were just, and then it became a much more difficult thing to charter. And then, of course, obviously, you know, this big flyby here, which was the big game changer, which Alex Luhan, he's a fantastic, I haven't seen that many videos of him just recently, actually. I don't know if he's still making videos, but hopefully he is. But he caught that shot, or he caught the shot on a Mexico webcams to Mexico shot, and I often bring it in because you can see there's the sun over here, and I'd said you're going to see this object coming in, and I was assuming the object was going to come in and orbit our sun, as everyone always assumes that our sun's the centre of the party, and we've all lived in that paradigm. And suddenly here we clearly see this object coming in, as I'm saying, look out, it's going to come in, it's going to go around the sun. But sure enough, there we see it coming in, and then it's scooting off and going back from whence it came. It's orbiting something right over here. And this was taken on the 1st of September 2019. It was just like, what the hell? It was a game changer, and finally we could triangulate this object that we saw here in my penultimate video, where, you know, we've just watched this object over and over and over. The most incredible, fantastic shots of this big blue object that we just can't believe, and yet the seismology, the earthquakes, you know, everything is redlining. Everything in the world is absolutely redlining beyond comprehension, what we're seeing. And when I wrote Laughing Gas, you know, in Laughing Gas, when I wrote my book, it was Earth is being, you know, it was a message of a guy dealing with this terrible blast of laughing gas, you know, being messy at a festival, you know, a kind of environmental activist, being messy, kind of thinking he's kind of like, he's got it all under wraps, you know, he's got all the sound bites, he believes that he wants to be carbon zero and blah 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 and all the rest of it. And suddenly he sees, you know, he has this horrible vision where he sees his planet, well, he sees his planet being used as the Trojan horse to break up the European alliance and feed Europe into a war against Russia. And it leads to a massive financial collapse, which then leads to a massive event which takes his life. And when he witnesses that he goes to a place where he cannot transcend, as in he dies. He can't go to a higher place. He's just dragged down with all the crimes and the sins that are dragging this earth down and destroying this earth. He's part of the problem. He's not got any invested interest in helping and saving this world. He's just locked into belief soundbites that somehow he wants to be carbon zero, even though we see, you know, like our local volcanoes. I always say our local volcanoes to me here, Stromboli and Etna, and probably kind of like the Iceland volcano that's going on, but probably closer is probably Stromboli and Etna in the Med. And they're like, you know, they're small volcanoes. They only produce about 80 million tons of carbon dioxide in a single eruption, because they're small volcanoes. Imagine big volcanoes, 200 or 300 million tons of carbon dioxide in a single eruption. You know, Chevauche, Popocatépetl, kind of like Tar volcano, these massive volcanoes that are serious players in terms of carbon dioxide. So that's what we're kind of like, that was a narrative he was kind of overcoming. He was overcoming how to come out of being, you know, when you're an environmentalist who believes in bullshit agendas, which I did. I was totally believing all these nonsense agendas, and I thought I was saving the world, and of course it's like Christianity. I'd taken Jesus off the cross and I'd put the earth on the cross. The earth is dying because of my sins. I need to believe, I want to be carbon zero. I need to believe in the whole carbon zero, because that's the backbone of nuclear. That's the backbone of our narrative to building nuclear power stations on tsunami hotspots and fault lines, like kind of like right Hinkley Point, where the biggest tsunami hotspot, where the big tsunami happened in 1606 on the 20th of January. This 20th of January that repeats itself over and over again, like Fukushima, where the power station's built right on the tsunami hotspot. and then you get the big tsunami, and you get these major disasters, and we're locked into these narratives. How can I derive myself to be a good human being if I believe those sort of agendas? Maybe I can listen to Bill Gates' advice, and I can take the vaccine, and that's going to take me to carbon zero. You know, which is what he made many speeches about that with his vaccines, that we can get to carbon zero through vaccines. These agendas, these bullshit greenwashing agendas that have been put between us and the truth of what's happening right out there. This incredible flyby that's literally happening right now. So there's a lot going on at the moment. You're in the midst of this big flyby, but I don't think it's going to be the absolute biggest still. I think that we've got one more big one of this one, which takes us to the full 12 years after the last big sightings. You remember, because 2016 certainly was a big activity, but like I say, let's just, well, I've shown you those shots anyway, and I've kind of like, make of this what you will. Ultimately, all of us have got to, try and make an attempt to understand what's going on without going down the roads of belief in this. My whole journey with this is trying to build an astronomical model from all of these sightings and make some constructive sense of all this data that we're getting in, not just use this as a mean to peddle belief systems and to get people to kind of believe in building nuclear power stations on tsunami hotspots. And try and work out a way to kind of see all of this. So let's just have a little look at the moment. Let's just have a little look at of what's been coming in just lately, just the shots that have just been coming through. So, like I say, I mentioned the Iceland volcano. So that was day 18, yeah. So it's day 18. It was around about the 20th, or maybe even the 18th, that it happened. But we're 18 days. So we're coming up to about 3 weeks. We're going to be soon coming up to 3 weeks. And this woman here, what's her channel called? On the Pulse with Silky. She often makes quite interesting videos about volcanoes, but they're seeing the land rise again now. They're seeing a very, very gradual increase so basically the magma chamber is starting to fill again now. But it's actually the actual volcano itself is going down a little bit more, and this thing is flying by. So this is going to carry on going, but it's not going to carry on going for it's not going to keep going till kind of January. This is going to be, there's only going to be about, I imagine that you're going to be lucky to get 10 more days out of this right now, the way things are going. But there obviously could be, around about the neat moon, there could be more earthquakes. Because generally speaking, the moon is a big indicator, as I tried to show you at the beginning of this video. Carlos Ferrada's big prediction. Carlos Ferrada's big prediction in 1939, just coming into that, see Jupiter coming in there and crossing the path of Earth. That's where Carlos Ferrada predicted that the earthquake would occur, and he said it would happen on I think he said it would happen on the 24th, and it happened on the 20th, or vice versa. But whichever day it happened, I think it might have happened on the 24th or the 20th. He was 4 days out, and it actually happened on the full of the new moon. And like the big, that was that flyby then. And he was like me. This was when he said the big blue one would cross. And the biggest earthquake happened in Chile, just as he said it would. And then every 12 years it sinks up again. And if you keep going forward, you'll see all the sinking points. But certainly it carries on going, and it sinks perfectly up with 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, and then we come again to 2004, 2016, which is you know, where we see it, where we see so I was always, so you know, there's so much in this model that has got to be that we've got I've got to correct anyway. This model isn't so correct, but nonetheless, it's kind of like we're seeing that we're seeing these same patterns. So it's more like 2017 or whatever, where we're beginning, well, 2016 just going to 17, and we won't see that. We will see that flyby again, obviously, but but it won't be close to the ecliptic. Already now it's starting to move into the northern hemisphere. So every flyby that's coming now is getting further and further away from Earth again now. So we've only got pretty much one last big flyby of that of the big blue one. But trying to think where I am. Anyway, so Iceland. These are current shots of it. Like I say, I'm of a mind that's going to start dying down now in the next kind of like 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. It's not going to go on that much longer, you know. But that was an interesting shot. New video maker that I've just come across, Mavi UFO Alarm. So I've just subscribed there for the first time. So I haven't seen his channel before, but nonetheless, I've just seen a few of his shots, and he just posted that, and he posted that on the 16th of, is that the 15th? 16th of November, and it's very reticent of. Do you remember in the 2022? That shot there on the 24th of November. So we're starting to see, you know, and in that last video I made, was it that one? Well, I showed you that shot, and that was UFO mania, and we're see how big it is there. So to me, this is the same object. This is we're coming up. We're finally understanding that the kind of the late November, pretty much, is the fundamental exit trajectory of this big blue object. Where it comes out, we've seen where it comes in, and now we're finally understanding its exit trajectory. You know, like I say, you can make guesstimates about this and that sort of stuff based on all the different sightings, but ultimately, you know, this work I'm doing here is basically charting this object and trying to make sense of it, and we keep getting this repeat eclipse at this point, and so we're starting to understand the real trajectory out of this object, and we keep getting corroborating data. So that was that very interesting shot that potentially kind of like backs up that whole idea. Again, they've got this object, a very similar sort of thing, same video maker, Mavi UFO Alarm. He posted that on November the 22nd. Look at that, exactly around the same day as the shot that World of Signs showed, that last shot I showed you on the 22nd of November 2022. Same thing, except he's much closer to us there. So we're getting much closer to that object now, where we're, I mean, potentially maybe that's the sun, and there's a forest fire or something like that. It could also be that, you know, it's where was it seen? What's happening in the skies of Istanbul? Giant red beam of light above Madrid. Well, that could be forest fires. That could obviously be forest fires far away. It could be, you know, forest fires in Portugal or something like that, or down in the southern aspect of Spain somewhere. It does get very dry at these times. Funny enough, where at certain times I've seen lots of fires certainly in the mountains in the Pyrenees at this time of year. So it could just be it could be forest fires that are causing that. I don't know, but I thought I'd post it up anyway. Then we've got this shot here of these two objects. Now, do you remember in the last video that I made, this one here, Mr. MBB333 had posted that shot there, and it looks like two very odd cloud formations, and to me these are the twin tail objects. There's two of them, the pair, and we've seen the pair a lot. We've seen a lot of shots of the pair, but most of the shots of the pair are coming in around about the kind of like February, March, April sort of time. That's where we seem to get them, and we've never really had we've never really fully caught the exit trajectory of them. And I always thought they came out in July, but now I'm understanding that they've been coming right around the sun, just like I'm describing what's happening with Jupiter. As in what we're really seeing, the movements of Jupiter outside of this bullshit standard 500-year-old model that we've been living in for so long, where, like I say, we have to keep reinventing this big blue, what the Hopi prophecies and the Mayans would have called the blue and the red Kachina. That's all this is. That's all we're talking about. It's the same old story. We've just thrown a whole story over the top of it to confuse it. So that's of my mind is they have literally. You know, we saw these in, like I say, we saw these in 2010, around 26, just coming in there, like Kerberos. I call them Kerberos, named after the moons of Pluto, ironically. And then next year, prove that was the 8.8 earthquake in Chile, and ironically on the 27th of February 2010, and then on the 26th of February 2010, the day before, you'd had the big kind of like eruption in Iceland that stopped all the air travel. That was a big seismic event, but it was a single day event because the object wasn't coming around, it wasn't coming in and coming around on the same ecliptic plane as it's doing now. It was coming from the south and heading up. Was it coming in from the south and heading up through to the north? I think so. Coming in from the south and heading up to the north, crossing at this point round about here, which is the crossing point, which is why the Sichuan earthquake occurred at that point, because most of these times these objects are either coming in below the ecliptic plane and then going out above, or coming in from above the ecliptic plane and then going out and coming out at the bottom. So, but when they're coming in on the same ecliptic plane, and they come round, they can affect us all the way round, not just at these kind of crossing points. And so, you know, we certainly saw it with the 2011 on the 11th of March 2011. It was coming in from the south. It was pulling on the Pacific and put enormous great weight on the Pacific Ocean, which caused, in my mind, caused the plate tectonic shift, which caused the tsunami. And then we're going to come now forward 12 years to the point where I said you'd see it again, and you'd have the big sightings to 2023, and there they were, and you see Kerberos and Charon coming in ready to do that same syncing up at this point in the cycle again. And you got both flybys. You remember when these big clouds came in? I mean, they're literally a planetary flyby, even though they look like lenticular clouds. They bring massive earthquakes, and I noticed that when The Guardian ran that story and ran pictures of this, you know, many of the comments from the subscribers were saying, "Oh, it's an earthquake cloud," because we've become so used to seeing these massive flybys now and the earthquakes that come with them that we now starting to call them earthquake clouds. It's and that obviously the big blue object seen on the 2nd of June 2023. Caught Mr. MBB333 posted that, and it was, you know, the US Masters golf tournament. You know, primetime TV kind of like thing, and the guy shooting the kind of like boot, you know, taking a shot down the fairway, and there's this massive blue spherical object in the sky, and the cameraman or the commentator is kind of commenting on the peculiar cloud where it's clearly something massive. That clearly is not a cloud, but obviously couldn't kind of say the big blue object, so he just had to call it a cloud. But I mean, it's just, there's just trillions and trillions and trillions of shots of this. We've just got so many epic shots, and we just can't believe it. Humanity can't move past its beliefs on this, so we're just kind of stuck out in this situation where we're watching the most incredible events unfold. So anyway, we've just explored how the pair were crossing at this point again in 2023, and we saw them. I said you'd look out for them, we're going to get it. And then now what's happening is, now we're getting to the point now where we are seeing those same objects, instead of coming all the way around here, around this object over here, this object's actually background over here. So they've come all the way, instead of coming around there, they've crossed in the February-March position, they've come much closer to our sun, they've come round, and they're coming out. If the big blue object is coming out on the November kind of 20th kind of exit point down here, they're coming out in kind of like before that, and they've crossed here, and they're coming out into, we saw them here, that shot of the big pair that Mr. MVP 333 posted, and I put up in my last video. They're now coming out, and they're going into, they're starting to go off into our, heading off into our night sky sort of thing, or coming off, being seen at this point somewhere back here, I'm assuming, or they've come right out here and they've come out and they've gone across there. But that wouldn't fit in with the blue one. They would have to be on this side of the blue one. So I'm more of a mind, it's more logical to assume, you know, if the way we see all these sightings, that the blue ones on the inside, and those twin tail objects are beyond it on the outside. So they must have crossed over here. So when we saw that, when we're seeing that shot, we're seeing them just, they've come around the back of us, and they're now heading off into our night sky. So that's the pair, in my opinion. Obviously I might be completely wrong, but isn't it funny that I'm saying look out for them, we're seeing them, they're going to go out into our night sky, and they're going to become stars in our night sky. And now there's 3 of these objects. 2 of them go right round the sun, as I showed, as I'm showing here. 2 of them come right round this object, they come right round, and they come back from whence they came. But there's 3 of them that actually come round, but one of them isn't travelling far enough to it hasn't got a big enough orbital circumference to let it go round our sun. So it goes off with the other 2 that are going to go round, but then it cuts across here, and as it cuts across here, it starts getting drawn into our sun. But it can't go round our sun because our sun is actually moving faster than it's moving. So it ends up looking as if it's going to go around our sun, but it can't go around our sun. So it ends up dropping back and coming back round from whence it came. And I'm of mind that because we've got lots of shots of those 3, I explored that in my last video. But quite interesting that that we saw this shot. This one big glowing flyby that Mr. MBB33 posted on the November the 25th. I'm just so you can see what that's looking like as a, I'm just going to play 3 seconds of that. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So I think I can show 5 seconds before I get myself into trouble. But there you get a gist of its what it looks like. But I really advise to have a look at the video because it's really quite fascinating. That's kind of what we're expecting to see, because it's, you know, we're now starting to be able to piece together all of these separate objects. We've had thousands of the most amazing shots, just beyond comprehension shots, you know, most of which obviously, you know, the great majority of us, you know, we've been bound by various different beliefs, and we can't go beyond, you know, the standard model. We can't go beyond the carbon dark side, that we want to be carbon zero. Most can't go beyond those narratives, and have to kind of live within these kind of like these belief kind of frameworks, I suppose. And but there you have it. It's quite amazing. That was a shot. I saw Brandon Corey Nagley posted that, and also I saw ironically Mavi UFO alarm. But very interesting shot. I believe that's supposed to be the moon, and then what is this behind the moon? Is that the big dwarf planet itself that we're seeing there? Is that what we're seeing beyond? We know we're very close to the dwarf planet. It's on the wrong side of our view to be the big blue one. It really could be that. It's very difficult to say. We don't know what it is, but it's got to be something. It's got to be something. I mean, it's just absolutely beyond comprehension. You can't say it's a kind of like a moon halo, because it's just not concentric. So it's just like it's a very odd thing, but breathtaking. It's another one of the shots that goes into beyond belief, like most of this entire subject. Then we had that was posted by Mavi UFO Alarm as well on December the 2nd, and I saw it, and it kind of reminded me of the biblical stories of the kind of like the 7 lampstands or whatever, but I just didn't know what that was. Is that potentially the pair, and they're much closer there, and we're getting an incredible view of the pair going into our night sky and seeing much more details of the pair, and they're you know, they're not just a single little dot. We're seeing much closer, and their whole their tails and what have you. I don't know, maybe it's a whole cluster of UFOs, maybe, I don't know, but I thought I'd post it up anyway and just show you that it's you know, it could just be total UFOs. It could be you know, it could be a load of Elon Musk kind of like satellites falling to Earth or something like that. I just don't know, but I found it quite interesting. That was another one, Mr. MBB333 as well, posted on the 3rd of December. Can't make a lot of sense of it really, but you can see I just give a little flicker there just to give you an idea of some of the colour changes that's going on. It's very kind of like, it is looking very much like, well, for me it looks like a flyby to me. It looks like that same object that that he showed before, where it was a like say that object there, but is now traversing into the daylight sky, and then we're just coming back round to the 7.3 earthquake that happened in California, and is that going to be the last of it? I obviously around the neat moon, you know, remember Fukushima happened on the neat moon, you know, when the moon's in between you know, when the moon goes between the Earth, and when the moon goes between the when say like here the Earth there and the Sun there, when the moon comes directly in between or directly on the far side of keeping that alignment, like in a full moon and a new moon or a dark moon, that's when we generally have the biggest seismology. That's when the moon has the most amount of power and effect on our oceans, doesn't it? That's when it really lifts up our oceans. So the moon magnifies the sun's power, or the sun magnifies the moon's power, whichever way you want to see it. But the moon is, you know, when the moon is involved in a magnification of these effects. And such was the case when we saw it on this day, on around about the 30th of October, or just before, when we saw the Oregon earthquake in late October, and like I say, the tsunami that happened in 2004 happened either on the full or the new moon. You know, Carlos Ferrada's big prediction happened on the full or the new moon. The kind of like, you know, the big, when I'd said that there was going to be massive seismic or massive oceanic anomalies on the in September 2008, it came in either on the full or the new moon again. Do you remember when the caldera of Krakatoa collapsed, and it was a big eruption, and it caused the subsequent tsunami on the new or the full moon? So, but Fukushima happens almost right on the neat moon, where it's in between. And if there's an object below or above the ecliptic, it's much easier for when there's not that alignment going on, for the moon to be pulled right up, or in the case of Fukushima, right down. And so the moon can affect the oceans in the north or the south in ways that it wouldn't normally affect. So different, there's different pulling on the oceans at these times. So I don't know what's going to happen. I really don't. Could there be a little bit more seismology around the neap moon, as this object sort of comes in, as this big blue object comes in and past us? I guess it just depends on whether it syncs up with that point as it goes past, but it could be. It's not going to be as close as I thought, though, because we've clearly gone past it now. We're just past it now, and we've gone that way, and it's coming that way, and so we are moving past it. It's quite exciting times, but I mean, it's quite good news as well. But the way things are looking with all the data now, we're starting to understand finally all the exit trajectories of these objects. And the big difference between, say, this model, looking at it from, say, more from kind of that perspective, where you're seeing from a distance our sun and whatever you want to call it, Herculobus, or whatever you want to call that system, orbiting a dwarf planet. Both these systems orbiting the same dwarf planet. Well, the difference between this is that when you've just got the sun in the centre, and all of these big objects just orbiting our sun, everything orbits our sun. When the big object's coming in, the kind of Zakai-Sitchin kind of classic 3,600 year model, where the sun's in the centre and planet X is finally coming in from its 3,600 year orbit. It's going to spin around our sun and go off again. It kind of in and out, or if anything, it's coming in under the ecliptic plane. It comes around, it passes up through the ecliptic plane, and then comes out the other side. And it's just like you've basically got one flyby. And what we've seen since the time of Galileo is we've seen thousands and thousands of flybys, unbelievable flybys that can't be explained by the fundamental Zakai-Sitchin kind of the sun, heliocentric, sun in the centre, and everything revolving around our sun, and nothing more complex than that. None of what we're seeing makes any sense. As when you start looking at a flyby, when you start bringing these together and you start understanding what this system looks like, and you come to a situation like this, where this object here is so close to our sun that we can see these objects getting pulled in by our sun that are orbiting this object getting pulled in. But of course they come round here, so we get one flyby here coming in, and then years later we get the return of the secondary flyby going out. And we've never had a window on a complex complex Planet X model to give you a bigger understanding of entrance and exit corridors of the type that we're seeing. And so this is what makes this whole thing so much more complicated. This is why I have to build these models, and this is the difference between me and my predecessors, is that I've got these like calculators. I can build these astronomical models. It takes me weeks, if not months, to try and calculate one of these flybys. And then when I've got one, and then I get another, and I can get another of these small bits of data that we're getting here and there. Well, we've been getting a lot of data. I've predicted, hundreds of flybys over the years. Over the last 10 years since I've been making videos about Planet X, I've predicted hundreds of flybys and been successful with most of them. Admittedly, some of them have been very tiny, but some of them have been absolutely massive with these, with incredible seismology and volcano eruptions and all sorts of other crazy kind of superstorms. And there's been so much that I've been able to predict really accurately with this. When I turned up in America in August 2017, after the big flyby on the the 2017 flyby, and and when after that flyby, when it came in, I turned up in America for Steve Olson's big conference for the 17th of August to see the big eclipse, and to see, because this was when this flyby was 200 days later after the last one, right on schedule. It comes in, it's seen on both sides of the both sides of the Atlantic, on Portugal and Brazil. It was seen. It was just incredible shots. It was. I don't know. It's. We've just seen so many fantastical shots. This was getting close to, WSO, Wormwood Systems Observatory, or whatever it was called, observations or whatever. But he was a massive channel, and these were some of the last shots that came in that for him. And after this, he threw the towel in, because he realised people just couldn't see it. They were just absolutely blind to it, even though the shots were just absolutely fantastical, beyond comprehension shots, over and over and over and over again. And it's very frustrating for me to watch this and realise that most people, especially in England, so many people think that Trump's the second coming, and he's going to come in and save the universe. And maybe he is, maybe he is going to be the kind of the big saving grace. And I was thinking so much more that this was going to be that we were coming into the biggest of flybys right now. But clearly, we've still got another year of this to go round. And I was thinking before that it was going to be this case. In the last video, when I saw those shots that that Turkey UFO report put up, they were kind of like they were FAA webcams up in Alaska. They're open; they can't mess around with those, and so a lot of skywatchers only use FAA cams and webcams that they can't have any kind of influence over, because then it's less likely they're going to get attacked and shot down. Because when you get attacked on the net, it grinds you down. It really, really upsets you, and people get very upset by attacks and all the rest of it. And like I say, all I can do is desperately trying to charter this. There's nothing else I can do. But incredible shot there. Incredible shots coming in, and we've seen many different video makers and very different skywatchers come in and join this discussion, and many leave with broken hearts and realise that realise what they're up against with this. It's very, very difficult to challenge the standard model, even though it's antiquated and it doesn't make sense to any of the kids now. It's just a barbaric old man's stupid thing that only works if you have absolutely no modern day astronomical knowledge, and you can just take something. We could never verify the standard model before, but now, like with so much of the instrumentation and the technology and the software and the hardware that we have now, we can see things in a totally different way that we couldn't see them before. We're doing so much stuff, how we can produce all our own videos now, all our own movies, all our own content, where before we didn't have that type of technology. We've got all this technology which is revealing truths to us that is just revealing the fact that we've been living in massive lies and massive deceptions. And like I say, I'm ready to upgrade this model now, and to take these last two models and merge them into take bits from both models and bring them into the correct proportion. And so that's going to be a massive exciting time. And I've been sensing this. I've been sensing that. Like I say, a month ago I was starting to think, oh my goodness me, that I'm starting to realise that we've got one more year of to get to the last big flyby, and there could be another year after that, because we've still got this. That shot I showed you on that came out in 2019. That shot there, and that's Alex Lujan shot that was caught on the webcams to Mexico on the 1st of September. This object here is still the last object. So we've got the two twins, and we've got a third tertiary object that travels all the three twins two that travel around, and the one that breaks off and does its own thing. But they've always been synced up. Every time we see them coming out, there's three of them coming together, and then one breaks off and doesn't go all the way around the sun, like this one didn't go around the sun. So one comes around this way, and this one goes around this way, and then two other go right round the sun, as in these kind of long-tailed, kind of like, you know, not the blue one basically, but the blue one also, like I say, goes right round the sun and then comes back from whence it came, and then goes right round the sun, comes back round here and orbits this, whatever this is orbiting. But we still don't know the orbital mechanics of that. You know, I'm of a mind that that shot there caught by Calvin looking for Hobbes, he caught that on the 15th of October 2020. That is, I'm of a mind, that shot there, that's that same object there. And it's still I'm of the mind that now, because I've seen the twin tails coming in, now I've seen the exit point of the twin tails at last, I'm kind of a mind that that shot that Matt Rogers caught on the 15th of around about the 15th of August 2016, round about, yeah, there, 15th of August 2016, you can see it. You know, he was up in Hull. It was again 10 o'clock at night. He sees a red glow, and it comes clean over the horizon, like the sun rising or something. It comes clean over the horizon and then drops back down, and you saw all the red dust in its tail. And I'm of a mind that that was this object here. So we're seeing it crossing in 2000, and we see it crossing, if you like, where is it? I've got it. I call it the red Kachina here, but it comes in here, and then it goes out here, and I'm of a mind that we saw it round about there on the 15th of October 2020, and we saw it round about there in 2016 with the Matt Rogers shot. And I'm of a mind that we are going to see another flyby at this point of that object as well, but I haven't calculated that yet. And I'm just beginning to get a window on it, so we don't know really when we're going to see the exit trajectory of this. You know, it's got to be before February, and it's got to be after kind of November, December, but it's difficult to say. And as in whether that's going to be this year, next year, it's very, very difficult to say. It's still a little bit of an unknown. So that we've basically got we can see there's 5 objects, 4 of these twin tail objects, and a big blue one, and we've kind of worked out 3 of the twin tails and the blue one's orbit, and they all kind of like all got a 12-year. They all sync up every 12 years to where every 12 years they sync up to the same place. But these ones, or the twin tails that go the right way round, they drop back a month. So it takes, if you like, 13 months for these to do one rotation round whatever they're orbiting here, and then come right round our sun and come back to where they started. It takes 13 months, as the blue one takes 11 months. But like I say, but they all sync up every 12 years, just like we would understand with Jupiter. Except that Jupiter, obviously we say it's got a 12-year orbit, you know, because every year it moves 1 calendar month further forward. Well, that's what we're seeing with the big blue object. as these drop back 1 calendar month every year. Well, not this one, not this specific one, but the twins, as I showed you earlier. This one's the closest orbiting, the one that to the big red dwarf planet. So we've got all we're kind of like, we're 80% understanding the orbital mechanics, if not more, the orbital mechanics of this system now, and so it's getting closer and closer to kind of to a point where hopefully I'll be able to build a Zodiac. I'm gonna desperately try and do another year of this model and another year of this, and do one last year of chartering this, because I've come this far. And when this was shown to me, I was told before my mum died, well, when she first got cancer, but she was still very healthy, she came down and she used to channel, originally my stepfather used to channel all these beings, and then my mum started channeling some of the same beings. And one of the beings she channeled was an ascended master, or whatever you want to call him, but his name was White Cloud. And my mum phoned me up and said, White Cloud wants me to come down and channel for you. And I was just like, okay. This was back in 2011, around about. And he came down and he said you're going to get a message. And he's the messenger. So when he says you're going to get a message, I'm thinking, oh my God, it must be really important. And he said, you're going to get a message, and when that message comes, it's going to answer many of your questions. You're going to understand. And I'd always wanted to know what the wall was. The whole my writing Laughing Gas was all about this understanding that we approach the wall, and nothing gets past the wall that is of war. Throw all your hate, all your depleted uranium, all your nuclear bombs, you will not scratch the surface. It has seen so much bigger, so much better, and all have gone under its wheels that have waged war, just like the Romans did in 262, got utterly scuttled by this. And so the whole way of dealing with this now is to encourage your enemies to go under the wheels of it, to try and get your enemies to go to war at this critical point when the big blue object flies by, that you cannot go to war when this thing flies by. Doesn't matter who you are, you cannot go to war. And so this desperate effort to try and get your enemies to go to war. And he said, yeah, you're going to get this message, and I felt like it was going to answer I wanted to know what the wall, what was the wall, what constituted the wall. I was writing all about this. You approach this massive wall. What is the wall? I wrote the whole of Laughing Gas. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. 80 men and 80 more could not place Humpty where he was before. This was a kind of a nursery rhyme that came out about the same time as at the time of the English Civil War, and between the Cavaliers and the Roundheads, or the Protestants and the Royalists, I suppose, and the Cromwell and Charles I. It was, and it was, we could see it being about Humpty, the big cannon that sat on the wall. But in reality, it was the same as George Bush's message. You're either with us or against us. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, as in Humpty Dumpty didn't choose a side. He was a fence sitter. He was sitting on the wall. He was sitting in between, which means he wasn't allied to either side. He was enemy of both sides. So he had two enemies. It was just rather than just one. So it was Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, but it was a message, but it was also kind of brought reference to this notion of this wall, that we come to this big wall, this big time, which is the barrier, the kind of the point that divides ages, and that this is this big division point. And like I say, all I can do in this is charter it and give you the data, and as best I can throw it together, and kind of try to define my work, and trying to define my understanding of how I got there, and how I kind of like ascertain, because like I say, Kepler's orbital mechanics make no sense when you add motion to our sun, all the time you see the perihelion points not being an indication of the motion of the primary, which is really what it is to me. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong there. But most modern day astronomical packages use our kind of notion of something coming around the front end and then going back much further and then coming back around the front end as that perihelion point, coming around the front of the sun as the coming around the front edge of the sun. That's quite obvious. Now we see it as, now all that sort of stuff makes a lot of sense, where it didn't kind of make sense. It didn't really kind of, you know, for a lot of people that hasn't made any sense. And most people, you know, I only started wondering about the forward motion of our sun when I started building astronomical models. And it wasn't until I built my first astronomical model I just went, oh, I wonder which way the sun's going. Oh, that's quite easy. Google, which way does the sun go? Does anyone know which way the sun's going? And realising that all our astronomical geniuses out there, no one seemed to have a clue which way the sun's going, and whether you did have any idea or not, it was completely buried under all this kind of like every planet having a different kind of like perihelion point, giving the sun effectively a different forward motion. So, you know, we're bringing so much information together here, and we're bringing so much more of an exciting way of looking at the whole solar system, and a way of kind of like evolving our understanding of our place in the cosmos. And how can you be cosmic if you don't even know your place in the cosmos, if you don't even want to know your cosmos, your place in your cosmos, and you think it's utterly irrelevant and redundant information, and you want nothing to do with it. You know, that's not me. I'm fascinated by all this astronomics. I'm a total train spotter to it. And like I say, when I got that big message and that I was going to get a message, and then this big vision happened where I saw this big planet flying by Earth, and everything went dark and everyone was scared, and there was a lot of fear, and it was all about overcoming fear and not going, you know, though I've walked through the valley of darkness, I fear no, you know, I'd fear no evil way. We're coming to that big point where we have to overcome our fears and realise we've got nothing to fear. You can't fear death. You got to laugh at that, because you're all going to die. You know, you all know you're all going to die and move on to the next phase at some point or other. So we can't fear this. We've just got to kind of like, but we can understand it. We can align with the cosmos in as best we can, and we can kind of like, we can open up what Nassim Haramein would call our worldview. You know, none of it's right, none of it's wrong. You've seen me upgrade this model all the way through, and no doubt I will continue to upgrade this model and perfect it and change it in all sorts of different ways. Oh my goodness me, it's so windy out there, it's ridiculous. But okay, so that's the end of the astronomical side of this discussion. And now I'm going to... what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back to I'm going to leave that shot that whilst we're going to just change the nature of this discussion now, and as I do so, I just wanted to, I'm going to leave as a thumb view, as we're kind of like, if I can find it, that shot that if I can find it, that Turkey UFO report put up, and I will leave that shot there, because we'll just leave that shot there anyway. We're just going to go into a bit of a discussion about maybe that's the, just trying to find the shot that it's funny how I found that shot before of Turkey UFOs report shot. I thought, well, there's the 3 coming in. We'll leave that shot up there, because there was a 3 coming in, and like I say, or returning back from whence they came, and the 3rd object as well. And so we're when was that, by the way? I can't see what date that was, but anyway, that was my last video, wasn't it? It was kind of like it's about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think I posted this video or something, you know. But so I want to talk about, I want to touch on the whole, you know, what's happening now now we're going past this big flyby. You know, what's going to happen to digital currencies, first of all, and this whole thing. What's going to happen now with all the digital currencies is, now in my mind, when I was shown the Planet X system myself, I heard the words, this is what the fuss is all about. This is why everyone's so panicked. And this is why I'm of mind the Bitcoin price has gone really, really high, and many other current digital currencies have really gone off the radar. And I don't know what's going to happen with them, but in my mind, we're coming to the end of this year's biggest flyby. Maybe there's another one coming in December, January, I just don't know. But I'm of mind that the biggest fear has been of the flyby that's been happening now, and people have been very concerned how big it's going to be, and whether that quake was going to be so much bigger that's just occurred, and whether there's going to be another one. But I think we're past the worst of it now for this particular flyby. Obviously I might be wrong, there might be way more to come. Like I say, we might get to the neat moon and we could have a total tsunami, we just don't know. But in my opinion, we've got another year by the looks of it before we get the real intensity of that, even though what we've seen this year has been pretty massive. And like I say, the biggest storms, as I said, in the northern hemisphere, all the stuff that I said would be happening has been happening. All the sightings I said you'd be getting, you've been having. You know, the kind of volcanoes going off in the northern hemisphere, Iceland volcano going off, everything is exactly going to schedule. There's nothing that is happening that I haven't said would happen. That there's nothing happening right now that you know, basically everything's happening right now is everything that I've been predicting that's been happening because of the passages of this over and over and over and over and over again. And you've got to look at if the bitcoins and all these things are taking a massive hike, and if you've made money out of that and you're sitting you're sitting pretty in the moment, you might want to really seriously think about trying to get hold of some of those funds and doing whatever you want to do with those funds and making the most of them, because they could drop again after this. This could be the fear factor that had been driving them really high, and they might start leveling out. The whole Ukraine thing, that might start petering out a little bit, because the whole thing, you know, is, you know, we're hearing Trump saying he's much more kind of like he's gonna end the war as soon as he gets into office on the 20th of January. And very likely he might. But what's interesting is the whole thing's kicking off in Syria again, and of course Russia's got a massive kind of like naval base in Syria, and you know, we're seeing, you know, it's Aleppo and then another big city. I'm not too sure what the name of the big city that's just gone the other day, but you know, it sounds like that there's going to be, you know, the hostilities are kind of moving towards the much more towards the Middle East again, you know, and Russia could be drawn into multiple conflicts. And we can see how this is a massive energy grab at the moment. You know, American interests are controlling kind of like 80% of the oil production and food growing production in Syria already. You know, this whole invasion into Kursk is, you know, which is the Russian, which is going out of Ukraine and into Russia, is taking control of the massive gas fields in Kursk region, which was where the most intense fighting was happening in the Second World War, over the same kind of like the same you know, reserves, you know, fuel reserves. It's this is massive grabbing of power and energy resources. As we've seen quite a lot over the, it's what we've become. It's normal for us to see these type of fights and these type of weapon sales. So we're seeing all this. This could carry on. This could carry on going. And Britain and America are both putting out a message that, you know, that we haven't really got the type of technology to knock out the type of missiles that Russia is producing, and we haven't got enough to supply them. With lots and lots of Storm Shadows or ATACMS, you know, ATACMS from the Americans, that there's not a massive supply of them, and there's not enough to go around, and they can't get that many to them because there's a real shortage, and Russia's got lots and we haven't got that many, and that sort of stuff. Now, all these sort of narratives are very normal when you're trying to draw your enemy into a fight. Is you're going to try and, oh, we haven't got that many ATACMS, and we haven't got that many Storm Shadows, and we're not really that equipped to fight the Russians, we haven't got the type of technology to knock their missiles out of the sky, blah 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 blah. Oh, this is a fantastic time to Russia to attack because we're all on the back foot. You know, the England, Britain and America is all on the, Britain, America, France are all on the back foot, and Russia's got all the best kind of like hypersonic missiles. They're much better suited for a war. Now, this was the type of rhetoric that led Japan to attack America, that brought America into the Second World War in the first place. So, you know, can you remember the attack on Pearl Harbor, and you know, so America took all its outdated ships and they put them in Pearl Harbor, and ready to do supposedly a preemptive strike on Russia, on Japan, and Japan got wind of this supposedly, or got this propaganda. Whether it was propaganda, whether it was really going to happen, it was doubtful it would ever happen, because every ship they put in Pearl Harbor was an antique. Back in I don't know when the Pearl Harbor invasion happened. It was probably 1942, 43, something like that. That brought America into the Second World War really quite late, in the last couple of years of the Second World War. So they came in very, very late, and they didn't have any ships. They didn't have any ships to think of. It was just like, let's get rid of all the ships. So Japan thinking, oh look, they've got all their ships in one place. They've broken the golden rule. They've taken the ships out of battle formation, and they've got them all in one harbour, within relatively close range to Japan. They're in Hawaii. They're quite close to Japan at that stage. Very easy for Japan just to go in and annihilate the entire fleet, which they went and did. But even though they'd been led to believe that America was too far away from the action to get involved in the Second World War, and if you took their fleet out, they'd be out of action, the Americans had long since got this guy called Deming on case. And Deming was the master of mass production. He built whole mindsets on how to, you know, after the Second World War, he went on to work with Sony in Japan, ironically, but and to set up this mass production. And Sony became the way in which Sony produced their kind of like their products changed the way the whole of Japan started mass producing. And that mindset came from the creation when, even though it seemed that America was so far away from all the action, suddenly, even when, oh, they haven't got any ships to join the Second World War, it never happened, suddenly America pressed the pump out battleship button. Against all the odds, against everything the Japanese believed that would happen, as soon as they bombed Pearl Harbor, America pumped out battleships of all sizes in very short amounts of time, using the kind of logic that we understand now is the commonplace in mass production that was adopted by Deming, and was taught to, you know, was the mindsets that we see in mass production. Not like in the days of Henry Ford, where loads of people working on lines, no one really having a clue of what's going on. What it was if your strategic kind of managers at the top get taken out, or if you just got one manager at the top trying to give all the commands out to do everything, and that one manager gets taken out, Mr. Really Important gets taken out, then the whole production fails. So you want to offload as much of the knowledge of production to as many of the people on the floor, to give them as much responsibility and as much incentive as to feel that they're part of the quality production, that they're in charge of quality production, and to get their invested interest into it, to make sure they, you know, one of his lines, if you can't write down what you're doing, and this is good for anyone, you know, if you can't write down what you're doing, you don't know what you're doing. He was this type of logic. He was all about the distribution of responsibility. reversing the triangle, and so instead of just having the manager at the top sending all the information down, it was actually putting the management, putting the shop floor on the top, and giving them the responsibility of quality control, and having it sent down so you could send a single prop propeller plane across the Atlantic and it not break down because of stupid little failures, because every part has been built by someone who had no clue what they're doing, had no understanding of the importance of whatever they were doing in the grand scheme of what they were creating. Suddenly you had much more invested interest from every player, much more doling out of responsibility, a much more complex mass manufacturing process that enabled a much better product, much less errors, much less faults. And this is what Japan adopted and became the biggest biggest producers in the globe, before China took over. All based on these principles, all built, and now this is standard in the workplace. These things are standard. So if America now was to turn around, even though we might say, oh, they're having, Lockheed Martin can't produce enough missiles to kind of like to make the Third World War happen. You know what I say to that? Bullshit. Utter bullshit. Can you imagine the technology that America and Britain and France and all these countries have been sitting on for eons? They're going to be selling the Storm Shadows to Ukraine and whoever else, and ATACMS and that sort of stuff. But can you imagine what technology America and Britain, these kind of like hypersonic missiles and all this technology has been out for ages. It's just like, we don't know if the real big war button is pressed and each of these countries that are in basically peacetime economies at the moment go into wartime, full-scale wartime economies. Oh my God, it's a whole different type of warfare. It's a whole new type of high-tech warfare that would, with the type of technology to shoot a plane out of the sky in the Second World War just took hundreds and hundreds of thousands of massive shells per plane to get one plane. Now, now it's a whole different kettle of fish. Now it's guided missiles, guided rockets, guided drones, guided everything. Everything's super high tech. Many of these objects can go bang and create so much heat they don't even have to hit the object. There's just like the volume and the death rate now in modern warfare. The time you've got on the battlefield before you're kind of like before your expiry is tiny. It's for many cases in many of the reserves or the conscripts, it's more hours than days. It's kind of like they haven't got hope in hell against the type of technology that's out now. It's absolutely full-scale lethal technology that's out there now, and it would be a very quick, very rapid. It would just consume massive amounts of lives, and it would be very quick. It would be like a wildfire war. It would be more over in potentially hours than days, or more days than weeks. It's well, and obviously the speed of the production, but we've seen how quickly a country can mobilize production. China has been practicing. The Chinese army, they tender for contracts and they do these incredible things where sometimes they'll build these massive pipelines across the country, and they'll do it more in hours than days. These huge, great structures just to show how they can organize and get massive projects done in absolutely no time. Can you imagine China if China wanted to pump out battleships? They're perfecting. They've got one. I think they've got one aircraft carrier, or maybe more. But I think the last I heard, they got one aircraft carrier. But what do they need? They don't need more than one. As long as they've perfected one aircraft carrier, as soon as they press the pump out aircraft carrier button, it won't be like America in the 1940s when they press the pump out aircraft carrier button. Oh my God, they're going to pump them out. It's going to be a whole nother level of production. The Third World War, like I say, would be a massive thing, and never mind, that's not going to happen. We just can't go there. And so we come to the second point I wanted to talk about now, which was the third point. I just briefly covered the Bitcoin. I'm just briefly covering the kind of like this idea of technology and you know, how someone can think, oh, America's not prepared for the war, or, you know, Britain's not prepared for the war. None of that stuff is, you know, you know, if any of these countries press the pump out munitions button to a massive level, they could all do that. All the countries around the world could do that now. Levels unthinkable to the type of production that was going on in the Second World War. And the third thing I wanted to talk about was, you know, I've got many friends who think that Trump is kind of the Messiah. He thinks he's the second coming. There's been, you know, this whole entry has been brought in by the likes of Alex Jones and kind of like and Joe Rogan and kind of like and, you know, lots and lots of different characters, big YouTubers that are kind of probably billionaire kind of YouTubers that have made a lot of money and paid enormous amount of monies to push people like Trump and that sort of stuff. And I have in mind that many of them totally believe that he's going to be a peace president, just like everyone believed that Zelensky was going to be a peace president. He was going to come in, he was going to bring peace to the region, solve everything, and of course he just came in and became a total war president. And now it's just like they haven't had an election since he's been in power. He can't have an election because who would vote for him? There's no one left. There's no young people left to fight anymore. He's got rid of them all. He sent them all to war against the Russians. You know, so they kind of like, imagine if the same thing happens with Trump and the guilt. All those, like all the people who believe that Brexit was, you know, Europe wants to drag us into the free trade deals, but Europe didn't sign the free trade deals. It was Britain that went into the free trade deal. It was always Britain that was wanted to go into the free trade deals. But at the time of Brexit, it was Europe's the baddie, Europe's evil, yeah, they're horrible, they want to do it, they're taking us to war, they're doing all this horrible stuff, they're the ones who are making us do everything. Oh, if it wasn't for Europe, we wouldn't go for it, we wouldn't be in any of these wars. If it wasn't for Europe, we wouldn't cover all these lands with depleted uranium bombshells. If it wasn't for Europe, we wouldn't do X, Y, and Z. Europe wants to take us into a free trade deal. All the things were being said. It was just like, you know, in Laughing Gas, when I published that book in 2011 to say that, you know, Britain is being used as the Trojan horse to break up the European alliance and feed Europe into a war against Russia. You know, all leveraged by a holy war in the Middle East between America, Israel, and Iran, which is all that's unfolding now. And exactly as I predicted it back. Well, I published the book in 2011. You know, it was a manuscript in 2009, 2010 of sorts. You know, it was to really kind of like, to really see where, you know, like the Brexiteers and all those different people that were kind of going on about that, many of them can't touch that. You know, they have to kind of like keep justifying it. They can't just turn around and say, God, I was totally wrong about that. I wish we hadn't left Europe. I wish we didn't all now have to have visas every time we go across. We can only spend 3 months a year in Europe, and then we have to go back. All the people that had jobs in Europe, all the people that were regular visitors to Europe. Like myself, going to and fro France regularly, and Spain, and kind of like and various different places. You know, in Europe, suddenly you can't do that anymore. You know, it was a tragedy. We had such an amazing thing going on, destroyed by a bunch of daft Brexiteers. But we got to remember that. Sorry, I'm just getting over a bit of a cold. We've got to remember that all of those that are believing that Trump is this Messiah, just like all those in Ukraine that believe that Zelensky, like I say, was going to deliver peace unto the land, and he did completely the opposite. Remember your intentions. If you're a Trump fan, there's nothing wrong with that. You know, for me, it's just another belief story, you know, but maybe he is the second coming. Maybe he will bring about all this change. And he'll be the most incredible, you know, for me, he's like the Penguin out of Batman. You know, he's just absolutely off the radar. He's straight out of a comic magazine. It's just like, it's beyond comprehension how someone so redneck could be pushed to be this kind of like Messiah-like character, when, you know, like, you know, what happened when he was with Israel and Iran. He was saying that Israel should bomb that's the first thing you should bomb, is their nuclear facilities, and then we see one of their nuclear facilities you know, being blown up directly after he said that. And it's just like, does that sound like a peace president? Doesn't sound like a peace president to me. You know, Iran hasn't attacked another nation in over 300 years. It's anyway, you know, whatever's going on here, what's so important for all of us is to remember our intentions in all of this. Whatever story you believe, you're not that story. You might believe that story, like you might believe that Jesus is going to turn up now. You might believe that carbon dioxide is the baddie. You might believe that, kind of like, whatever you believe right now. Remember your intentions. You know, if you believe that he's a peace president and he's going to bring peace, that's what's important to remember in that. That's what you believed in this story. That was the story you were sold. Because it might not turn out like that, and you don't need to defend it. When he starts doing the things that I think he might start doing, and things start getting really out of hand when he comes into office. I mean, you know, he was the father of the vaccine. You know, he rushed it through. And I hear so many people defending that, because they've got to defend him, because he's the peace Messiah and he's going to come, he's the second coming. And it's just like, well, maybe he's not. Maybe you don't have to defend that. And maybe you don't have to practice that. You know, it's just like you don't have to defend it. If he doesn't deliver what he said he's going to deliver, even though you might have believed that, which to some might make you a little bit gullible, but how many... I believed that I wanted to be carbon zero once. I believed that. I believed all the environmental bullshit that I used to spew. Because I believed that the people that had come up with it, and I believed that their intentions, I know, were good. Just because they were talking bullshit. And they'd been peddled bullshit themselves by so many others. They'd picked up on all this bullshit. They believed it, so everyone else believed it. But that... just because I believed it doesn't make me bad, and it doesn't make you or anyone else bad. If you believe that Trump's the second coming and he's been sent by God to kind of like to save us, maybe he's not going to pan out like that. And if it starts falling apart, it's not your fault, because you believe that. And it's so important to track your own intentions in this, and not be part of that. If that starts sort of, you know, if the milk goes sour, basically, you need to track your own intentions within this. What do you believe? What did you believe at this time? What did you want? Did you want all-out war? Did you want all of this aggression, or did you want something higher to happen, something better to happen, that you were hoping, that you believed all the bullshit, but you've been lied to potentially? We don't know yet, but imagine if it all does start going a little bit sour, and it's just not, it's no longer feasible for, you know, the entire American economy just to build on the rest of the world in a state of war, and to live off that, of perpetual war. Maybe it's time for perpetual peace, which means that we've got to come back to a whole basket of currencies, and a whole basket of real value and of fair currencies. It can't be a monopoly money game anymore, and the only real value is not the monopoly money on the table, but the guns under the table. Once we get to the level where everyone's got the same levels of technology all around, and if anyone or all press the annihilation button, then it's the end of the Earth story. Once you're in that, situation, then the game's just got to be played fair. It just means that it's got to be a fair game. It can't be a weighted game, you know, anymore. Which means that we just go back to a fair playing field. That's all this is talking about. That's what it means when everyone's got the same level of technology. It's not the end of the world. It's just an even, fair playing field. That's what is coming back to the table. Which means that all humanity becomes fantastic. It's not about America being great again. It's about the whole world becoming great again. And that's what is, I think, is going to come out of this. And if many of these countries can't go to war and they can't enforce their kind of like their hegemony, then we come back to an even playing field. And at the end of the day, that's what's really all that's going to come out of this. A massive revealing of truth and a much more even playing field, which means that some economies are going to come and it's going to be coming back to an equilibrium, and there's going to be, we've got a bit of stuff to get through to get there, and that's all this is. And so hopefully I'm going to get a chance now to do my audiobook over this next year and release it on my Patreon account, because this last year has been the biggest time for me to do this whole model. It's been the biggest challenge, I think. And so now I'm at that place now. We're ready to take the next. This of mine will be my last year of really chartering this, and then it will all start petering out, because, like I say, our sun overall moves faster than all of these objects. So once our sun starts moving ahead of the whole system just a little bit more, none of these planets will be able to go around our sun, which means all these flybys will be over. As quick as they started, they will stop. And, very soon, this big flyby, excuse my generator running in the background. You can hear my little generator running in the background there, revving away. I can hear it's just about to run out of juice, so everything's going to go whoa. But maybe, I don't know, I can hear it quite clearly, so you can probably hear it. So apologies about the noise and the interference whilst making this video. But there it is, lovely people. There's the latest thing. You're kind of basically in what I can see the penultimate flyby of the big blue planet, and it's there it goes. You're in the penultimate flyby of this big blue planet, and now we're all going to watch this space and see how it all unfolds. But thank you so much for following me so far. I saw a few people put a donation into my my PayPal, and for all those that still follow me on Patreon, I'm so sorry I haven't been active on Patreon just lately. Like I say, these last few months, this last year really has been the toughest time for me to run this channel. I've struggled with it this year, and I'm probably going to keep struggling with it. I swear it's quite low, but thank you for those who contributed a little bit. Like I say, I'm so brassy at the moment that it's been financially, it's been the hardest time of my life actually. But I've just got to keep muddling through there, and work's been really scarce, and everyone's running out of money, and it's just a very, very difficult time, I think. And but onwards and upwards, though. I'm still going. I'm still doing the best I can, and I've got at least one more year of doing this. And like I say, I was saying about the message from White Cloud about saying you're going to get a message, and when I did get this message, and I saw the planet flying by Earth, and I in this vision, and it all went dark, and everyone was really panicked and what have you, and I was shown the whole thing, and I was told that this was what the fuss is really all about, and I'd never really kind of considered it to be about planetary flyby at all. This was back in 2014 it happened, and this massive journey that I've been on chartering this object since that time, and I made an agreement that I would charter this. it was just like, it was when I got the message, he said, you're going to get a message, as in you're going to see this thing, and you're going to have to make choices of what you want to do about this. You're going to have to decide. There'll be no one you can turn to. There'll be no one that will be behind you on it. It will be one thing you have to do completely on your own. And every choice you're going to have to make, you're going to have to initiate and come up with what you're going to do and make your own plans. And it's been a difficult path, because would I have taken this path normally? It's the least cool path to take doing what I've done. It's been the hardest thing. It's made me go completely white, really, kind of chartering this whole thing. It's been a really difficult thing, but I decided from the beginning that I was going to charter this. That's what I was going to attempt to do, and I'm going to complete that mission as best I can. And I'm going to build another model. I'm going to do all the corrections to this existing model, by hook or by crook, and get us to this place where we have a real window on the whole model as it is, with all of the different flybys all over the top, if I can do it. And as before, as I've done before, but just to correct all of the mistakes and bring it all into one flowing motion, so you can see 1800 years and thus 3600 years and further of how this system has affected us for the last 3600 years. And really kind of, I mean, you can see it now, but it's just going to get better and better, and we're going to improve it. And by the time this turns up, all of us, those who followed this, and for all the people that you share this with, and all the great discussion, will have hopefully opened themselves to already our collective worldview is so much different now than it was back in 2014 when I started making videos. I think we've all collectively opened up our worldview about how we see things now. So thank you for all your help, those who have supported me a little bit. And like I say, if you want to help me anymore, please, my PayPal links in the art there's a tag in the artwork of my channel. You'll see there's a donate button there, and but it's puppetdave@yahoo.com is my PayPal link there. I've got a Patreon account. I haven't been using it that much just lately. I've just been trying to get us through this flyby, and it's been as emotionally as much as I can handle doing it this year. I've not been able to do much more, but I'm going to do the last chapters. I got in this year. I got us into the jungle in Laughing Gas, which is where the fun starts, and it's a horrendous journey getting you to that place. So those beginning chapters, as in audio versions of those chapters, are up on Patreon at the moment. But or Patreon at the moment, and I'm going to add all the I'm going to begin to add all the others and keep posting more material up there as well. But I haven't been doing that much, because the stuff I've been doing, I've just been posting here because it's but like I say, this channel's getting shut down. YouTube's getting shut down. My views are going out to less and less people, and I realise that I'm a threat to the system, because they want all-out war at this time. But they didn't manage to make their Large Hadron Collider work this year over mine, but you can imagine they're going to try again next year. So we're watching them get everything in preparation, and for the big event, the biggest of the flybys. And like I say, we've not got anything to fear. There is no fear in this. If you're not in fear, you've got nothing to fear. Believe it or not, you've come and gone many, many times on this earth, and it will be no different this time. And if you're not here, you're going to be going somewhere else. It's going to carry, your grand story is going to carry on going. So, honey in the heart, 1,000 thank yous, and kind of like and good luck for these next few weeks, because we've still got quite a bit more turbulence to get through, no doubt, and maybe a bit more kind of seismology around the neat moon, but I've got a funny feeling we're almost through the worst of it right now for this particular flyby. I mean, obviously, there could be other stuff going on and all the rest of it, but you remember that we're not seen as a planet of war, as in humanity is not seen as as being of war. We're seen as being subverted with war. That's how we're dominated, with a warring agenda that's been thrown on top of us by someone and something else. And we're overcoming that, and as we evolve that, we'll start seeing the biggest changes. So wage peace. Know that you can remember your peaceful intentions. If you are of peace and you want peace on this plane, remember that. Vocalize that. Send that out to the universe. Send that out with your prayers for the universe, that you want peace, that you are of peace, that you want to be part of a peaceful transition in this planet. Remember, many of you that have supported Trump in this have done so because you believe he's going to bring peace. Even if he doesn't, that's not your fault. You know, you're not bad if he turns out to be, if the milk goes sour, it might not be your doing. Even though you might believe that he's very special, you know, you've got to track your own intentions of what you want in this, you know, and stay with that, and let that be your guiding light of what your intentions are. You know, just, you want to keep your vibration high in this. Stay away from guilt. And thank you so much, honey in the heart. 1,000 thank yous for all your time so far, and good luck. Ciao.